Hi class, it's Dr. Floyd. Want to just bring you up to date and make sure you know what you're doing in week 4 here. It's Wednesday of week 4. Finally finished grading week 3, so you should be able to find all your grades showing up. I mainly want to talk about these 2 papers that you have going. In addition to your constantly working away at the final persuasive essay, you had the summary draft last week. You want to make sure you can get all your comments on that. I put them in the marking guide, the rubric, just where you give the points. Then there was a space for comment. So you want to look for that. If you need directions on that, let me know if you can't find it. Because that's all the stuff you need to work on to get a better score this week when you turn that in as a final draft. You're also doing a draft of a second paper called a rhetorical analysis. We'll talk about that in a second. And so I want to start with the summary. Varying degrees of issues with the drafts. Everybody found pretty good sources, I think, to use for that, and things that made a lot of sense given your topic and your paper that you had picked that source to work with. The idea of that assignment really, and the new one this week, the rhetorical analysis, is that you get used to a source and you show that you know how to talk about a source, an academic source. So neither of these assignments are about you writing your paper right now or saying how you're going to use the source in your paper or anything like that. It's about you simply being able to talk about the source. So with the summary, the idea was write a short paper saying what this source does, what it accomplishes, what its purpose is, what its strongest points are, what is the argument, what is the information. So some of you missed that part and thus need a little more work before Sunday night. Others of you got that okay, but had smaller technical things. I'm going to use an example here, showing you my screen. I always forget that it's cuts off part of it. Let me get in here. Here we go. That gets us down. So this is one of your papers with the name removed. This is the cover page. Good. Remember, anything you turn in this class really should have the cover page. The number 1 is up at the top. We just can't see it. Like that. So that's good. And then here this person starts. Look how they use the first paragraph to tell us what the article is. Name it, tell us who the authors are, and a little bit about just what is this article about? What's it do? So the importance of legalizing marijuana is a hot topic for debate in the United States and has been for several years. Big general comment to start an introduction with, totally usual. Here comes the introduction of the article. In the article, Point Marijuana Should Be Legalized, written by Adam Ford and Andrew Walter. The authors discuss blah, blah, blah. So we get the article introduced, the 2 authors, and generally what it's about. A few points that the authors touch on are, so here's sections of the article. Now I'm going to go ahead right on this video and fix this for you. This sentence didn't name the authors, it just said the authors. So that means here in our citation, we're going to need to get those names. Ford and Walter, comma, 2017, comma, good. It's just P period. Good. So these are the 3 pieces you need when you're citing. Author, year, page number. The article talks about blah, blah, blah. The report takes. See, the language is just all saying what it does. So now we get a new paragraph that gets more specific. Taking into consideration that both tobacco and alcohol are intoxicants, then it's hard to see why tobacco and alcohol are legal, but marijuana is not. According to Ford and Walter, here's our authors again. We got to get the year with the name. Yeah. Drinking, here's a quote, nice, but we've already put the year up with the name, so all that needs to be in here is that page number. And no period here. The period goes after the citation. So that's the kind of thing that a bunch of you need to work on in the draft. See that you're probably going to want to quote from these sources in your final paper. So throwing a quote in the summary of some of the better parts of it or good practice. According to Ford and Walter, there's the year, here's the quote, there's the one piece left, the page number, and the period goes, whoop, I didn't get it in there. The period goes after the citation. Okay? But this is the idea that you want to be working toward in your summary. It's not no I voice, no how you're going to use it in your paper, none of that. Just what does this source do? So in the end, you've thought about a source that's pertinent to your paper. References, good job. This is not a PA, good to have it. It should be its own separate page. There we go. And then APA would have the year up front. And this is a little confusing because in the body of the paper, the student author talks about this as an article, but it's italicized here like a book. So this needs a little work, but it's there. There's a reference page. And so I hope that kind of helps clear up the idea about what you're doing in the summary. If not, you can let me know. Now, this week in this rhetorical analysis assignment, here we are. There's your discussion that you all are already working on with introductions for your big paper. Right there. Here's where you'll turn in your revision of your summary assignment. Here's your McGraw-Hill things for this week. Now, most of you are keeping up with that pretty well. I hope they're helpful. Curious to know what you think of those at any time you want to give that feedback, because we're always working on the course. But if you're having trouble, any technical trouble, let me know. I'll get you in touch with the right person to fix that, but you don't want to kind of just neglect those. There's too many points to add up. Here's the rhetorical analysis essay. Now this week it's a draft, which means you'll get a lot of feedback for the final turn in next week. But the idea here is similar to the summary. You're going to pick a source. You're going to write a paper about the source, not your paper, not your argument. But because you all read about ethos, pathos, and logos last week, you're going to be picking apart this source for how these authors use ethos, pathos, and logos. So you probably want to find a good argumentative source, a straight up study. It'll work. I think you can do it. But you can imagine you're not going to be able to talk about pathos much with a study. There's not going to be much emotional appeal going on. And really, other than if you look into who the authors are and who conducted it, it might be hard to get ethos. So a study might leave you with just a lot of logos was used, and then not sure you can make your page requirements here, which are 4 to 6. Yeah. So I think you want to find something where the person's arguing. That article we just looked at about marijuana was argumentative. It was taking a side. You want to find a source that does that, and then you're analyzing. You're doing a little bit of summary, of course, to tell us what's the article, who are the authors, what's the argument. So you're employing that summary skill back, but you're also analyzing. It's called rhetorical analysis. So you're saying these authors make their point by establishing credibility, by an emotional appeal, by having lots of statistics and facts and logical points to their argument, and then diving in and finding those and being able to say, here, in the third section of the essay is where the logos comes in. So you'll definitely be quoting. You want to make sure you review that, introduce a quote, cite at the end of the quote. And again, those will be things I can help him with. But the point is to show that you can look at an argument and kind of tear it apart and say, here's how this argument works. Here's what this author or authors are doing. Because you'll do that in your own final essay. You'll be employing some ethos, pathos, and logos, hopefully. And to be able to see it in another source will help you to replicate it, or at least the parts you think are effective of it, in your own. So that's this week at a glance. It's Wednesday, so get those introduction paragraphs posted by tonight. And you're doing different things with different papers this week. The summary is getting it in good final shape. The rhetorical analysis is a draft. And then your own paper, you are, obviously those other two things help because the sources will be employed in your own paper, but you're at least getting an introduction and you have a body paragraph at this point. So be in touch if you have any questions. I'll probably try to set up a Collaborate office hour like on the screen for later this week. So watch for that if you're interested in asking questions, with a voice and a face present and all that. Otherwise, just be in touch by email if you have concerns. Hope your week's going well. If you're in Northwest Ohio, it's a beautiful day. Bye-bye.